Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Milica McDowell, welcome to the conversation today.
Good morning, John. Thanks for having me.
It is a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Montana. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about encouraging and incentivizing walking programs for our employees and in the workplace generally. And it's a really fun topic. It's so practical, and it's just an easy way for us to encourage and really, up the ante when it comes to workplace wellness and overall wellness from both a physical and mental standpoint. As we get started, I wanted to share Milica's bio with everybody. Dr. Milica McDowell is a dynamic healthcare leader and educator with over 20 years of clinical, entrepreneurial, and academic expertise in physical therapy and e-learning innovation. Currently serving as Associate Vice President of Education at U.S. Physical Therapy, she spearheads strategic partnerships with professional PT and OT schools and drives student engagement across the organization's national platforms while supporting over 140 partner brands. Previously, Dr. McDowell led Physitrack's global e-learning division. In her previous capacity, she launched evidence-based professional education programs for medical and wellness practitioners worldwide. I could go on. There's so many really cool things about your background. You have a really unique background. I'm going to pause there. Anything you would like to highlight before we just dive on into the conversation?
I've always been really passionate about education and helping people gain access to science-backed knowledge. So there's so much misinformation out there. One of the key misinformations related to walking, I'm not going to give it away yet, but is the 10,000 steps a day being the healthy marker for success. So we'll dive into that in a minute. I just want to tease that. My
Yeah,
background as
I've
well.
read something about that. I watched a video about it once too, and
Yeah.
so I'm curious to see if that's at all accurate. Um,
Yes,
so we'll
it is
get
a
into that
hot
in just a minute.
topic
Yeah.
for sure. I'm the child of two teachers. I was a university professor for 9 years. I just really love sharing accurate information and helping people learn how to take better care of themselves, how to take better care of themselves in the workplace, how to support their friends and family. And so I'm very excited for this conversation today because walking is the 21st century's most underprescribed medicine. It is a
Mm.
radical form of self-care. And if you are in leadership at your organization, it is something you can give your teams permission to do. I'm really excited about the ability for us to unpack all the knowledge around the health benefits of walking from a mental health, a performance, and a physical health standpoint. So yeah, really pumped to be here today. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Well, and maybe we can start with what you just said. It's such a great way, to unlock all of these things, and it's largely untapped. And everyone, knows, have a pedometer, whether it's your phone or you have like the ring or the watch or whatever. There's all these different ways we can do it, and the 10,000 steps. This wasn't necessarily a thing in the past, right? And why was that? In previous generations and previous centuries, nobody, thought about walking as a prescription or walking as something you had to even pay attention to at all.
It was something that was built into daily life. Ancestors walked between 12 and 15,000 steps a day in non-supportive shoes, right? In
Hmm.
shoes, if we could call them
Hmm.
shoes at the time, that were simply designed for protection from harm.
Hmm.
And we have really fallen away from the need to use walking as a form of transportation, as a form to engage with our community. The Industrial Revolution did that for us. Cars, horses, trains, planes, automobiles definitely took a dent into most individuals' daily walking step counts. And then we saw an all-time low be created after the pandemic when many people shifted to working from home. You didn't have to walk to the train to commute to the office. You didn't have to go out to lunch if you work at an office. Your office was, within 2,000 steps of what you were sitting in front of your computer at home at your dining room table. So we have definitely seen that decline. It's sort of draining down the bottom of the funnel. And the message that we're trying to share right now is really designed to counteract that.
Yeah, and I can say, I mean, just anecdotally, personally, Pandemic wise, I've always been, I walk my dogs twice a day. I've been a university professor. I'm on a big, huge campus, so I'm walking from meeting to meeting. I'm in classroom. I'm walking around. Like I've always been a 12 to 15,000 step person a day, just without trying.
Yeah.
Like that's just how I've been until the pandemic.
Mm,
And then all of a
absolutely.
sudden it dropped, like it
Mhm.
dropped to like 5 to 7,000 steps.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I had to really think about it for the first time in
Hmm.
forever. Um,
Hmm.
and and that was still with me walking my dogs, twice a day.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I was hearing about other people like struggling to get 2,000, 3,000 steps. And
Yes.
it's just, yes, absolutely. It's really nice when it's just built into our natural like flow of our day. And when it's
Mhm.
not, then all of a sudden it becomes something you have to really think about. So now we have walking desks, like where you have the little treadmill. And I have one like right under me right now. I have
Same.
I have a walking desk so I can raise my desk. I have a little
Yep.
treadmill under it. I can make sure I'm getting steps in during the day. So we have like things like that. We have things like walking meetings and all these things that have become all the rage to try to just reintroduce
Yes.
these just the health benefits of just moving and not being sedentary
Correct.
all the
Correct.
time.
So you hit on a couple important things with what you just said, that draining down the funnel to ending up at 2,000 to 3,000 steps a day. I'm often asked, what's the absolute minimum? Because it's important to know sort of the guardrails, I think, in these types of conversations. The absolute minimum steps per day should be, let's see, let me rephrase that. The worst case scenario, the basement is if you are walking less than 2,500. So we
Mm,
know that if individuals walk less than 2,500, they are at risk for a host of physical and
mm,
mental health disorders and progression to disease,
mm,
early death. The data is rock solid.
yeah.
We know that if we take someone who's at that 2,500 and raise them 500 steps to 3,000, we reduce their risk of all cause mortality, which means dying from anything, by 7%. If we take someone who's at the basement of 2,500 and bring them up to 3,500 a day, so adding 1,000, you
Hmm.
reduce their risk of all cause mortality by 15%. And those statistics are from multi center, systematic review, hundreds of thousands of patients, long term studies. So we tend to say that basement is 3,500. If you're below
Hmm.
3,500, we're worried. If you're below 2,500, red flags are everywhere. You need to get in touch with your medical professionals and create a program to get up to 2,500.
Yeah.
The opposite end of the guardrail, however, you kind of hit on. So it sounds like you are someone who gets a huge step count, and many individuals do, right? And the overarching, if you ask a man on the street or a woman on the street, how many steps a day do you need to take to be healthy? That answer is always what, John?
10,000. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
That's the
10,000. It's
default.
like
That's the
apple pie.
default.
It's
Yeah.
the right answer to the question, right? And what's interesting about 10,000 is 10,000 has never been a science-backed metric. 10,000 steps per day is left over from a 1960s Japanese pedometer marketing campaign. And it was following the Tokyo Olympics. Pedometers were all the rage. Being active was all the rage. And at the time, it was called a Manpo K, is actually the Japanese term for the walking meter. The ticker on that walking meter, they were manual at the time, where every time your body rocked, it like took a clicker step. Um, it only went up to 10,000. And so that's where that 10,000 steps a day comes from.
Okay, so I'm really happy to have this conversation with you because I've read that and I've seen a video about that and I was like, is that real?
It's
That
100% as true as I sit here.
it seems
That
so
is
fake.
that's the science, that's the story. So when we say the basement, the worst case basement's 2,500. We really like to get you to 3,500. Ugh, that's
Uh-huh.
still not walking much.
Yeah,
And if
yeah.
that upper ceiling is not 10K, what is that upper ceiling? When we have individuals who are shooting for 10,000, 12,000, 15,000, it becomes this conversation of a rate of diminishing returns.
Mm,
And when I look at that, I'm a clinician, right? I'm a physiotherapist, I'm a trainer, I'm an exercise physiologist. My role in life is encouraging other people to move. But when we hit a rate of diminishing return, I like to say, you can have that time back to do something else, right? We look at ACSM's recommendations for adults, 150 minutes of moderate activity per day. Divide by 7, right? You're looking at 30 minutes of moderate activity per day, but that's just our cardiovascular activity. If you
Hmm.
look deeper into the recommendations, twice a week we should be doing strength training. So
Yeah.
if you're someone who's way exceeding that 10K number, you could back off that and use that time for some strength training in order to stimulate bone, muscle, all of the things we get from strength training.
Hmm.
So you want to
Yeah.
know the top end number that we should be striving for?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so if you are, these are all science-backed conversations. If you are under 60, generally speaking, 8,500 is a great number. If you are over 60, generally speaking, 7,500 is a great number. That's for general all cause mortality. And when we say all cause mortality, that's dying from all our typical, things that
Hmm.
kill
Yeah.
Americans in particular, cardiovascular disease, strokes, all those
Hmm.
kinds of things, right? There's really interesting data, however, related to dementia progression. And the dementia
Hmm.
progression data is very fascinating. And it parallels this conversation of like 3,500 to 8,500, give or take. The dementia conversation is if you have, concerns about dementia, if there's family history, those sorts of things, if you have other cognitive challenges or a history of mental health disorders, if you can walk 3,800 consistently, it reduces your risk of developing dementia by 25%.
Hmm.
If you walk 9,800 consistently, which is pretty close to 10K and a pretty big bite, it's a big time commitment. The data shows us that can reduce your risk of developing dementia nearly 50%. So the
Wow.
3,800 to 9,800 window is a critical window when we think of dementia risk.
That's incredible. And
Mhm.
as I age, I actually just had a birthday yesterday. So I'm
Happy
47 years
birthday. All
47
right.
years old. Thank you. And as I age, everyone, has the little aches and you have these various things. I'm pretty healthy actually, but I worry like anyone else. Like what's it going to be like? I want to age and be healthy as I age.
Yes.
And one of the biggest fears I have is dementia, right? I want to be healthy as I age and I want to remain, mentally there and it terrifies me, to have dementia. So that's incredible. Like,
Yeah.
one of the greatest ways to battle
Yes.
that. Yeah.
And I think when we frame this in a business context, right? So if you're listening to this podcast today and you're someone in leadership in an organization, what does this mean to you, right? You're not going to like send out a PDF with a list of like, "Hey team, let's make sure you're walking between 3,800 and 9,800 so you don't get dementia." Um, I think really where business leaders can use this information is this way. Give your teams permission to walk. Allow them to schedule a walk and talk meeting if they're talking about something that isn't confidential. Allow them to have a standing desk. Allow them to have a walking pad. Better yet, purchase part of it for them. Provide some, incentive for individuals to remember walking is a health intervention. It can affect our public health globally. And so, with that, I think it's important to, if you're someone who's in leadership, to think about ways, A, you can model this behavior. When are you getting a fair amount of steps per day? Are you someone who is modeling healthy lifestyle? And then encourage your teams either through some sort of, extrinsic motivation. Maybe there's a leaderboard, maybe there's a luncheon, maybe there's some sort of, gamification, or by educating them, which drives intrinsic motivation. And
Hmm.
when you talk about really trying to prepare people to be successful in their workplaces, whether it's a brick and mortar place they have to go every day, whether they're teams who work remote, the education and the intrinsic motivation side of this is key for adoption and key for people internalizing what can it do for me? Why do I want to consider participating in this activity?
Yeah, well, and I love the both sides of it, because certainly carrot and stick, that can drive behavior to a certain extent, and maybe that's the nudge, to get someone going when they're not, so inclined to make a change. But I would hope that you could transfer any extrinsic motivator into an intrinsic motivator and really then drive a habit that becomes like a lifestyle choice, right? That just
Sure.
becomes a lifelong, thing for that individual. That's really going to be what makes the big difference for
Yes.
people. And I like how you also frame it as like giving permission, make it systematize it, like make it something
Hmm.
that just
Yep.
becomes part of the workplace, becomes part
Right.
of office culture.
Yes.
I still remember it was a long time ago before standing desks became pretty normal. I remember the first time I asked a manager for a standing desk. I'm like, can I
Hmm.
get this? And they're like, why? And I'm like, like, is this like an accommodation? Like, do we need to go to the
Do you have a
accommodation
medical
office,
condition?
fill out paperwork and stuff? I'm like, well, no, it's just better for you. And like, it's better to be standing up. And, I gave them all these reasons and they're like, I don't know, because if we give one to you without any special reason, like then other people are going to want one. And like, it was this whole back and forth. And eventually I talked them into it and they gave me a standing desk. This was like 15 years ago or something. Um,
You were on the
and
leading edge. I love this.
and then I got like the first thing I got was like a little mini elliptical underneath, and then I got
Yeah.
like a little mini treadmill. Anyways, like I just remember having to really talk people into that. And now it's
Yes.
much more common. Now
Right.
you see it all the time. And I think it is becoming more pervasive and more just cultural, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But the walking meetings, I love that. I love it when
Yep.
people will take walking meetings. I hate sitting behind my desk on Zoom calls all day.
Right.
And for the most part, there's no reason to.
Yeah.
If people are in the office together, sometimes, yeah, be in a room together, use the whiteboard, whatever. But I mean, juices are flowing when you're walking around. Like
Right.
I'm so
Yeah.
much more creative when I'm moving.
Yeah.
And when I'm just observing stuff around, like I tell people, I have like my greatest insights when I'm out walking my dogs,
Hmm. Hmm.
And I don't think that's unique to me. I think most people tend to just think better when they're moving.
Hmm. It does. It promotes mental clarity, reduces blood pressure. It improves your cognitive or your cerebral blood flow. There's actually a concept called interrupted sitting. There's some
Mm.
really great studies that talk about even if you get up and do a 5 minute micro walk or 20 to 30 squats,
Oh,
X number of times per day, that demonstrated improvement in mental performance, cognitive clarity, reductions in discomfort. And so there are really some strategies that managers can learn about and share. Interrupted sitting, micro walks, walk and talk meetings. If you take nothing else away from this conversation, those are the great things to throw into Google or ChatGPT and search
mm.
about and learn about. Additionally, I'm happy to be a resource to anyone who's listening. A great place to reach out to me is on Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Milica McDowell, DPT. And so my Melissa is spelled Milica. You'll be able to track me down. But I love sharing that kind of information, chatting about programming opportunities, just ways that you can, as you mentioned, John, systemize this, give people permission, make sure that they understand the benefits, and then create some motivations for people to participate.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Maybe the last thing I'll just mention in terms of like the systematic approach to it. I have two daughters. I've, teenagers, and I have two daughters that work at In and Out. And I've been impressed with In and Out just in terms of like their focus on the physical health of their employees. Like they have mandated into policy, like I think it's like every 20 minutes. Like they have like literally like a little timer that goes off, and every 20 minutes they're supposed to like stop and like do like hand stretches and like do various like things to make sure that they're physically staying healthy, right? And
Hmm.
I'm just like, maybe you're aware of this, but like it's just so cool like that they have these things built in so
Hmm.
that employees don't feel like they're, I don't know, that they're cheating or like they're not working hard, or because that becomes a pervasive kind of cultural thing. Like, and people just feel like, oh, I can't take this break. I
Hmm.
can't do this or that because then people are going to think I'm not committed, or, I want to get ahead, or I'm ambitious, or whatever. And like, no, like you're actually promoting good, healthy productivity, and you're going to get better outcomes when people are
Right.
taking the walking breaks and resetting mentally and doing all those sorts of things. So we want to
Hmm.
promote this as much as possible.
Yeah,
Well,
I've done some occupational health consulting over the years, and I did some in a manufacturing facility that made widgets related to bullets and guns. I mean, I'm in Montana, so that's a big industry here. And I remember going to these warehouses and music would just come on randomly. I thought
mm,
randomly initially. It was once an hour. And this huge like blast of horrible like 90s techno would come on, and everybody would pop up out of their stations and they would go through a stretching routine. And
uh-huh,
the
uh-huh.
first couple of times it caught me off guard. And then as I started to work in that industry, I was like, oh, this is creating a culture again of permission, of this is normal, of we're all doing this together, of
And it's
high five,
expected.
we just did our stretches. And we know that that sort of social component is really valuable. And that's where I think with walking, because it is something that is very inclusive. Most individuals are capable of walking, even individuals with assisted devices, prosthetics. If you have a coworker who's using a walker or wheelchair, they can certainly come with you when you go on a walk. I think it is incredibly inclusive. And when you start building some culture around that inclusivity, around it being normal, around it being something that we look forward to, that really has a lot of power. And I would challenge the leaders on these calls to think about, are you modeling this type of behavior, and are you creating space for individuals to participate? So they have the knowledge of what the benefits are, they have the ability to put it into their schedule, and then you either have some sort of, you know, reward system, celebration,
Yeah.
acknowledgement. I mean, we all know that that goes so far with people feeling connected in their workplaces, whether remote or in person. So I think that that's an important takeaway from the conversation as well.
I love it. Melissa, thank you so much. This has been a real pleasure. I know at the time I need to let you go, but before we wrap up, I just wanted to give you one last chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you,
Yeah.
and also share about your upcoming book release, and then give us the final word for today.
Absolutely. So I am so honored to have completed a book project this year with one of my very knowledgeable colleagues' best friends. So our book is called Walk. Walk is in pre-sale right now. It is being published by Hachette in the US, Penguin Random House in the UK, and various other international translations. It is currently available on Amazon. So if you type in Walk and you type in my name, you will see the information about this book. The book's goal is absolutely this: providing science backed information that can help people turn the dial a tiny bit. Whether you're someone who is worried what shoes to wear, maybe you've had pain or an injury or a surgery, you don't know how to carve out the time. We've absolutely worked through all of those typical objections to introducing more walking into your life. We talk about walks with your coworkers, your grandmother, your crabby teenage daughters. You can actually really change the mood. There's great science being like, please drag your teenager outside and go for a walk. So I have really enjoyed the process of working through writing a book and being able to share this message in a wider platform. So if you're looking to connect with me, again, you can reach me on Instagram, Dr. Melissa McDowell DPT. I'm also on LinkedIn, Dr. Melissa McDowell. My website is melissamcdowell.com, and the book is available anywhere you buy books: Target, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, you name it. So
Wonderful.
that's what I've been up to for the last year and a half.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. It's been a pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Melissa can do for you. Check out the book. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.